Welcome to All Waves Considered. I'm your host, Jon Kanzigg with 2Gs.
And I'm Julius Spicciani, and we're going to be talking about surfing.
Only favorite thing to talk about.
Yes, yeah, we're happy to talk about it. We could talk about it for longer than we have video for.
Right.
So we met each other in Navar, and you were just telling the story about how the first time you met me, you accidentally cut me off, and it's been the start of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, and you never know what people's personalities are going to be in the water. You kind of had this long-haired hippie surfer kind of look. Are you going to be a scrapper? Are you tweaking? Are you nice? Are you Christian? Because I've had some people just shower you with love, in the water.
Yeah.
And you're not expecting it. Some of the burliest people, are just, God bless you, have a good day. I hope you're, just right on. That was a great wave. And
yeah.
Sometimes when you don't deserve it.
Yes.
Yeah. But you were very forgiving to me on my slight to cut you off, and I had to apologize for that.
And I think you also have a very friendly face. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that.
No, not at all.
Really?
But okay. Well, but now you say that, I think that's part of the reason I've had success in my career. Is a gift of a smile, and I've always been able to smile and laugh and make people laugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe a divert directly from surfing. Found out the second time I met you that you're the fire chief in Midway. Is that what it was?
Midway, yes, in Gulf Breeze. I've been in the fire service just over 32 years. I'm on the backside of my career at 52 years old, so I got in really young, and I've been the fire chief for almost 16 years.
Wow. And it seems like surfing and being a firefighter is kind of naturally complement each other. There's
so many firefighters that surf along the Gulf Coast and all over the world, even like in San Diego, California. And the schedule of whatever that is, it's different everywhere, but it allows you to do that. And there's guys that surf in Navar that work at Hobart Fire Department and Fort Walton Beach Fire Department, all the way to Pensacola, Navar. So there's usually a familiar face just from work, people that I'm associated with at work and not just through surfing.
We get asked about the break in Pensacola. When people ask you about the Gulf Coast, you can tell me later what you tell them, but I generally tell them, the waves aren't great, and a lot of times you almost have to be unemployed or flexibly employed to make the most of what our waves have to offer. What do you tell people when they ask you about your home break in Pensacola when you're traveling overseas, or Navar rather?
Well, first, the people at the local break here think I'm homeless and don't have a job because every time the surf's up, I'm there.
Right. Yeah.
I think I surfed 83 times last year.
That's fantastic.
I count them every time I go.
Nice.
People say the same thing. People that live here say, "You're going surfing? We don't have waves here." I'm like, well, no, we don't have waves when you go to the beach.
Right. Yeah.
When your family's in town from Michigan, it's 90 degrees out and on a perfect sunny day.
Right. Exactly.
It's at sunrise and after the storm comes, and when it's cold and when it's chilly. Sometimes it's in the rain, but we have amazing surf.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and can you tell me, how would you describe our amazing surf?
Years and years ago, when I just got into surfing, I remember my dad was at Interlight, and he was, of course, we bought everything from Interlight, skateboards and wetsuits, and Big Yancey was in there and talking about surfing to my dad, and says, "Well, listen, if you can surf the Gulf Coast, you can surf anywhere in the world. This is one of the hardest waves to surf. It's not a peeler. It's not a reef break. It's not an easy, thick swell. You have to be on point in the right place all the time.
Yeah.
If you can surf here, man, you go somewhere like Costa Rica or the Virgin Islands, you're going to kill it."
Your dad wasn't a surfer, was he? He was just supporting you?
Yeah, just support me. And I was 13. I had a boogie board, and we lived on the beach. I grew up on Navar Beach. And I went to school in Fort Walton because there was no schools in Navar. And we had no neighbors. And we used to surf a place called the Burned Down House. It was just pylons where a house had burned down, which is just past the curve. And that's what we called it. My dad says, "Well, you really like this surfing thing." He said, "How about we go to Hawaii on vacation?" My parents weren't married. And so me and my dad took a trip to Hawaii. And when we got to Hawaii, we went to Straight Up Surf Shop. He bought me a surfboard. We went to Town and Country Surf Shop and bought me a bunch of clothes and kind of all the cool swag that I saw in all the magazines and stuff. And rented some boards and just I got in the water in Maui and got hammered. Almost cut my toe off on the reef.
Oh, God.
on my 14th birthday, rented boards and surfed Waikiki. It was super easy. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I got into it. And we literally lived on the beach. And when I would go out surfing, because there was nobody there, mm-hmm. my mom used to make me wear one of those goofy orange Coast Guard life jackets.
Nice.
So she could see me and so I wouldn't drown because there was nobody to come get me.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah.
And man, under protest, I had to do it until I was about 16.
Uh-huh.
It was silly.
Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty intense. Your primer for surfing was Hawaii.
Yeah, and living on the beach, I was good. I like boogie boarding. That's really all I knew, mm-hmm. but I really got to learn it, and I surfed a lot at Fort Walton Beach Pier growing up, just because nobody surfed in Navar, and I didn't like surfing by myself. And I went to school in Fort Walton, so all my friends surfed it. Some great guys, Don Oliver and Shannon Stone, those guys I still communicate and talk with today, kind of the hot shots of Okaloosa County area.
Can you tell me about your maybe an early surf experience or what it felt like maybe to catch your first wave, just anything like that? So my very first wave, I was probably 6 or 7. Mm-hmm.
We had a family reunion out at the beach, and I had an older cousin, a girl, who had a surfboard. She lived out on Perdido. And I just remember going out there. It was like a knee-high day, mm-hmm. and she took me out there, my older cousins, and just pushed me in on a wave. And I remember just being a little kid standing on this tank of a board, riding to the beach, and hear my mom cheer. And, I was like, I remember that. I dig that, and I loved it.
That's cool. You were hooked from then.
I was, and weird, I had 9 years where I didn't surf at all. I got married and started having kids, and I had a business on the side, and I was working at the fire department full time, and just like buying the car, buying the house, buying the boat, mm-hmm. just, supporting a family. That was all on pause. And then I got called out from one of the firemen I worked with, says, "You don't know how to surf." So of course I had to borrow a surfboard from somebody to go out there and show them. And I still had it. I was like, I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back. And then I was doing Cub Scouts. I was a Cub Scout leader, and I had this Cub Scout meeting, the first one at my house. My kid was 7. There was a dad there, and I surfed with him. We're best friends. We just got back from a trip out west yesterday, and we met 15 years ago. He's like, "Yeah, I surf." So we just kind of, and it's Cameron Luke. He surfs at Navar quite a bit. He's an ER physician at Sacred Heart. Mm-hmm. His schedule fits him.
Yeah.
If he's not at the hospital and the surf's up, he's going to go surfing.
Yeah.
That's my running buddy. He'll cut you off too, unintentionally.
I can't wait. And can you tell me about Navar itself? Like I have felt it feels like a very different energy surfing there compared to Pensacola. Can you tell me about your home break and the people that are there?
Navar is a pretty friendly break. Most people that have been surfing there have been there a while. Some of the old timers, Pasco and Brenda. And the vibe of the beach was set 20 years ago. The pier, when I was in high school, good friends of mine in high school, their parents owned the pier. Mm-hmm. And it was the old pier, which was just down from where the current pier is. But they used to have signs in the parking lot. No snorkeling equipment, no surfboards allowed on property. You couldn't even have it in the parking lot. And I remember getting shaken down by a cop just because I opened my hatchback and he's driving by and I had a surfboard in my car.
What?
The sign says none on property and all this. Of course, my dad got involved and he knew the sheriff, and he basically just harassing the kids. Mm-hmm. Got a citation. Well, I got a firm talking to because we didn't change out of our wetsuit, shuck down in our underwear to dry off and change, and mm-hmm. cop driving by, and you're in decent exposure. You're in your underwear in the parking lot.
All our fears.
Well, now everybody on the beach is naked.
Yeah.
Jeez. I think it was good because a lot of the hostility, I'd say the hostility, but the aggressive surfers, the Groms were, at Pensacola Pier, and a lot of them in Okaloosa Pier, but there were some jerks. I'm not going to name Vince's last name in Fort Walton Beach, but man, that guy was a jerk to all of us.
Yeah.
He cut us off and slap us, and he was just a bully, but the guy could surf, Yeah, the vibe for the chill Navar Beach was set many years ago by, like people like Brenda and Pasco and Jeff Bell, just people that are there to have a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And can you circle back? So are you telling me that the Navar Pier and that parking lot was super against surfing? So
it was privately owned.
Okay, got you. Okay.
Yeah, the pier was privately owned, and of course they had their own rules. They could do what they want, and the owner of the pier had a good friend or something. Was a deputy, would hang out there and drink free coffee, and And, and the fishermen don't like the surfers because there's surfers that ruin it for everybody. They go out and there's 50 people fishing on the side of the pier, and they just going to paddle through the lines and get in the way. And, you got fishermen that are trying to hook people. And there was a story, maybe it was at Pasco, but, it was a back and forth between a fisherman and a surfer. And they went up on the pier and walked up behind him and threw him off the pier.
Right, yeah. I think Pasco, someone had told me that story. I don't remember who it was.
Yeah. Of course, now that's attempted murder,
Yeah. Things have changed. Yeah. Here you are developing as a surfer. You're getting older. This is pre you starting a family and taking a hiatus. When did you start traveling for surfing?
I went on a couple little trips to the East Coast in high school with a good friend of mine, Wayne. They were okay, but I really didn't. And they were fun because we were young and dumb, but they weren't pleasurable, if that makes sense. It wasn't my serenity like it is now.
Uh-huh.
When you have a high stress job or, you have the stress of money, kids, and all the other people are your responsibility.
Yeah.
You have stresses. And when I hit the water, there's no phone, there's no radio, no pager.
Mm-hmm.
The world could burn down around me and I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's the only time I'm completely unplugged. And I can be having a wrecked day, maybe struggling with seeing something tragic at the fire department or dealing with personnel issues. And as soon as my head gets wet, it's just like it never happened.
Wow. And can you lean into that, maybe the experiential part of surfing, talking about being able to unplug? Can you tell me more about how the act of surfing itself feels to you, how you process that?
So my body is different. I've had I had my shoulder ripped out at Navar Pier and had to get a shoulder replacement in 2017. I've almost drowned there. I had a spinal cord injury, and luckily I was dragged out of the water and I recovered from that. The physical pain, you quickly forget about that. Mm-hmm. Getting slammed on the rock or getting a fin stabbed in your leg, because all of your senses, when you hit the water, you're using every sense of your body. You're tasting the water. You see, smell, taste. You're looking out. You don't care what's going on the beach in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You feel the hammer of the water dropping on you.
Mm-hmm.
You smell the wax, and you feel the vibe of everybody else around you. People like Laura and these other locals that always have Michaela, they always have a smile on their face.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Stone, they're just there to encourage people and speak positive things into people's life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who they are as people.
Right.
It's very therapeutic for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone to counseling in my lifetime to deal with stresses. I've unfortunately had to take medication to deal with stress.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing takes that away like being in the lineup and getting priority and everybody seeing you catch the wave of the day.
Yeah.
And you get a couple hoots, you get a couple, damn dude, that was good. That was killer. And you're like, that's right. I know. I'm good. I'm
there.
Good now. I'm going to suck in 5 minutes. I'm going to fall.
Yeah.
But that one was good.
So I'm in Costa Rica right now, and this is my first surf vacation. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience traveling for surf?
Yeah, so my first big surf trip was with my friend Cameron. He actually, he's a doctor. So I was a new fire chief, and I wasn't making a lot of money. So he bought me a plane ticket and put me up. He said, let's go to this place called Sayulita in Mexico. Mm-hmm. We flew down there and me and a couple of guys put us up in a beach house. And that was my first time. I had to get a passport then. Mm-hmm. Rented surfboards, just the coolest vibe of a little town. I have one memory of being in Sayulita that it was completely surreal. I was taking a right and I was going down this easy swell and I saw something in the water probably 30, 40 feet up in front of me. And my brain told me that's a cardboard box floating in the water because it was kind of waving.
Okay.
And as I went right over the top of it, it was a spotted manta ray, spotted eagle ray. Mm-hmm. And it was probably 7-8 feet across wide. And it was amazing. He was just soaring, slow swimming, just kind of doing his thing. And also on the same trip, we saw whales way out in the distance, blowing water and flopping around, making a splash.
Yeah.
But Mexico was amazing. It's a beautiful people and the food was great. My second trip to Mexico was probably a better surf trip, but we went to San Jose del Cabo and Pescadora, Todos Santos, and that whole Baja Peninsula. But I drank the ice in the drink, which is that you never drink the ice or drink the water, and I got sick. So it jammed me up for a couple days. Yeah, I love it. I love Mexico. Other than the heat, you know, the sun will cook your face off if you get down close to the equator.
Yeah, we've been trying to surf in the morning and the evenings, but if you get stuck in the afternoon, it can get pretty blistering. Oh, yeah. Okay, that reminds me. Yeah, how do you deal with the summers in the Gulf Coast?
A lot of patience.
Yeah.
You know, we have other things that kind of keep us occupied, I guess. You know, we do a little boating. We'll go wake surfing or just, and I've been fortunate the last few years. I've been able to go down to the Virgin Islands in the summer. I have a friend that has a place down there. It doesn't cost me anything to go stay with him. So I tootle down there, you know, just kind of kick it, do a little work around his place as a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
And there's good surf there.
Most of my experience in Costa Rica has actually been kind of frustrating. Like hard paddle outs and scary, gigantic stuff. And I'm brought back to my earlier surfing, summer surfing, where there's a lot of frustration that comes up. I have also appreciated being able to process that frustration. And I think sometimes, Gulf Coast waves can be frustrating, but maybe that's part of the medicine too, working through that.
Yeah. And a trick to going, like I learned this in the Virgin Islands, have a zipper pocket on your board shorts. You can put 5, 10, 20 bucks in there, some different coins. It's a long paddle out. You're going to be tired by the time you get to the break.
Yeah.
And the fishermen are there say, hey man, if I give you 10 bucks, will you give me a ride out?
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, yeah, well, you just save yourself 30 minutes of paddling and all your energy, you know, and you get your ride. Just be nice.
Yeah.
Hey, man, if I give y'all 20 bucks when y'all leave, can you give me a ride back to the, you know, I got the money right here in my pocket.
Yeah.
It's wet.
And they probably love it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Whatever. And usually score a beer or something, you know, off of them.
Yeah.
And some advice, you know, where to go, you know, the place to eat.
Do you have any last things that you want to talk about or a last story that you feel like you need to say?
I will say this. I really enjoyed Pasco's interview because he talked about the environment a little bit, him being a commercial fisherman. And here's the best part about when I listened to like Brenda's interview about Navar and Pasco's, that's a side of them that I had no exposure to. I didn't know all of those things about them. And then, you know, like you popped up a picture of Brenda on the screen during her thing, and Brenda was kind of a hottie, you know, back in the day.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, and she was on point, and but Pasco too, you know, he was the guy, he was the man, the lifeguard. But without that interview, it just gave me a new perspective on who they are and what's important to them. I mean, I have small talk with them. I know where their kids work and what their, you know, small talk questions that are only asked once or twice a week when you see them in the parking lot.
Yeah.
We don't go to dinner. We don't hang out, but there's always and Jeff Bell in Navar said for years ago, he's like, man, we got to have all the surfers in Navar. We just need to go somewhere to find a restaurant with a bonfire, and I'll bring my guitar, and we just get a keg of beer, and everybody can just come by for like 3 or 4 hours and hang out with each other, because we don't get to do that.
No, that sounds great. Invite me to that bonfire.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah.
thank you for watching All Waves Considered. I'm your host, Jon Kanzigg, and I'll say this. God only knows what you're going through, and he gave us the ocean. So get in the ocean, wash off all the funk you got in your life, and I promise you'll feel better.